So welcome. Firstly, we are HDK, if you're not familiar with us. We are a specialist agency that provides web design and marketing services to arts, cultural, heritage, and non-profit organizations. So it's great to see so many of you here today. We were founded over 25 years ago by Hans de Kretser, which is the HDK in our name. He started out in the marketing departments at Sadler's Wells and English National Opera, and since branching out on his own, Hans chose to specialize in arts and culture, not just because of his experience, but because of how the arts and cultural industry's why or purpose aligns with his own, which is to leave a positive impact on people's lives. And since then, Hans has built a team of digital experts who also happen to have a background in the arts. So we will introduce ourselves quickly. So I'm Phoebe, I'm HDK's Client Relationship Manager. I work with all of our clients to define their specific needs, establish the most appropriate services, and assemble a bit of an A-team from within the HDK team to take over from there. I've worked at HDK now for just over 3 years, and my personal investment in the arts is that I am also a trained actor. Our other speakers today are Meg and Ali, who I will hand over to now to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, thanks Phoebe. I'm Meg, I'm the marketing manager at HDK. Really lovely to see so many of you here today, lots of names that I recognise. I have a connection to the arts, background in musical theatre, specifically acting, singing, dancing, all that jazz. And I work across a number of our client projects, including digital advertising, social media management, digital strategy, marketing tour management, and so on. I will pass on to Ali.
Hi everyone, I'm Ali. I'm the marketing coordinator at HDK, and I work with Meg closely on lots of the projects that she just mentioned. And my sort of personal connection to the arts is that I'm an art historian, a history of art degree. So yeah, fine art, museums, galleries, all of that. That's my jazz. So I'll pass back over to Phoebe.
Thank you. So in today's session, we are going to be looking at TikTok from the perspective of an arts and cultural organization. So we are going to provide a recap of the platform and some of its recent updates, some case studies of organizations doing it well, some advice on incorporating TikTok into your strategy, and instead of a Q&A today, which we normally have, we're going to open up a discussion instead, just as a way to make the most of everyone's shared experience on the platform so far, such as how you build it into your day-to-day, what's worked well, what challenges have you overcome, and so on. Of course, as we go, feel free to leave some questions in the chat throughout, and we'll try as much as we can to answer as we go. And finally, if you want to share anything about today's session on social media, please use the hashtag HDKwebinar, which is on the screen now. And before we kick off the session, we want to get a consensus of where you're all at currently with TikTok. So in a moment, a poll will appear on the screen. If I can, oh, there we are, polls. I haven't done a poll in a little while. So yeah, if you could answer the questions that should be on your screen now, we can get a bit of a consensus as to where people are at on the platform, and bear that in mind as we go. Great to see all of the results rolling in. Great. Okay, so we've still got a couple more coming in. Okay, we're going to end that poll now and share the results. So you should be able to see on your screen. So 38% of you are on TikTok and have started posting. 20% are on TikTok but haven't started posting yet. And a majority, 41%, are not on TikTok as an organization yet. And very interestingly, 50% of you do use TikTok personally and 50% of you don't. So yeah, very interesting as we go into today's session, and we can bear that in mind, and hopefully we'll give you a bit of inspiration today with our content. So with that in mind, I am going to hand over to Meg.
Thank you, Phoebe. Brilliant. Hello and welcome to the first HTK webinar of 2023. Thank you for joining us. Our last TikTok webinar was in June of 2022, and we were so pleased to have so many fantastic organizations and freelancers. And it's even more fantastic to see so many of you return alongside some new faces. And since June, the platform has changed quite a bit. The cultural landscape on TikTok has changed quite a bit too. And today we're going to do a lot of talking and also a lot of TikTok watching. So why not kick off by combining them both? We'll be sharing this recording with you at the end of today's session. So please don't feel like you need to scramble to get everything down today. And with that in mind, here is what you have missed on TikTok. We'll see if this works.
Hello and welcome to the HTK TikTok Roundup. First, we have new features. Photo mode, like Instagram carousels, allows users to add photos into a slideshow style post. Lives have been increasing in popularity, with the tab introduced specifically for viewing them. Other new features include TikTok Now, singing text-to-speech, and the potential for geo-targeting. As seen here in the New York Times, TikTok is being used as a search platform by Gen Z. As a result, the platform's algorithm and search capacity has become much stronger. And in other news, TikTok reports that 50% of the TikTok community say the platform boosts their mood and makes them feel happy. Other reports, however, suggest we know very little about the impact of TikTok on mental health. In the arts, American Ballet Theatre moved to the forefront of the ballet world on TikTok with a sensational series of rap videos during the Nutcracker season. Uffizi Gallery continues to lean into the increasingly chaotic video style, capturing their audience's attention with a 2022 roundup and the boat trend. Musician Maggie Rogers made a vlog-style video connecting with her audience after her show at Alexandra Palace went wrong but ended up being loads better. According to Music Business Worldwide, in the music world, 10 of the 12 number ones in the UK official singles chart were driven by viral trends on TikTok. And finally, and most importantly, Dolly Parton joined TikTok in December with her Better Late Than Never video achieving over 10 million views. Stay up to date with TikTok and the platform's changes with TikTok Newsroom, and be sure to set the location to the UK. Thanks for listening to the HTK TikTok Roundup. That's what you missed.
Great, thank you. I thought that would be less work than presenting, but turns out a lot went into making that video. So with that, I am very pleased to pass over to Ali, who will be walking through some examples of some great content in our industry.
Thank you, Meg. Hello, everyone. So spending time on the platform and learning from others is one of the best ways to develop and improve your TikTok presence. We always advise that before doing anything in terms of strategy or content creation, that you and members of your team spend time on the app. It's a real necessity. So kind of with that in mind, and with knowing that 50% of you do personally use it and 50% of you don't, let's have a look at who is doing it well. So first up, we have Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. They currently have 26.3k followers and 411.2k likes.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I left no ring with her. What means this lady? Fortune forbid my outside hath not charmed her. She made good view of me. Indeed, so much that sure methought her eyes had lost her tongue, for she did speak in start distractedly. Oh no. She loves me.
So in the first TikTok, we saw a fun, silly and fairly simple celebration of Shakespeare's birthday, a nice example that simple and quick can often be the way on TikTok. But what we also see is excellent use of professional show footage, but in a fun and accessible way. The clip that we just saw from the performance is captioned for accessibility, but it also uses emojis and text to emphasize certain areas and bring the footage to life. So our next example is the art venue Contact Manchester. They currently have 1,000 followers and 14.6K likes. So let's have a look at some of their TikToks.
Faithful, 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 not sure, traitor, traitor, faithful, traitor.
At first it was fun, then scary, then fun again, then spooky, but in a fun way.
Amazing. So from looking at their page, you can get the real sense that the team members who run the account are granted creative freedom, and it really pays off. The tone is right there in terms of what people expect on TikTok. And there's a really nice balance between kind of soft marketing and venue advocacy with silly, self-deprecating sort of comedic tone. So next up, we're sharing a personal account of Stevie Webb, who is a cast member of the Book of Mormon. Currently, he has 49.5K followers and 1.3 million likes.
What's your favourite saying? New Hampshire is never that far. Okay, what advice would you give to a newborn baby? Walk with me. I know you can't, but try it. Okay, what should my book be called? Timothy Chalamet's Guide to Cooking. Why? Why would it be that? What's the new iPhone called? Mr. Shine Bio. Shine Bio. What clothes do you buy? Synthetic.
So Stevie shares content with fellow cast members and has started a series that we just watched called The Game. It's with cast member Ross, where they ask each other random questions and have to respond sort of quickly and off the cuff. This, very silly, fun series currently has 540.2K views. So it's a great example of kind of using his personal platform to sort of soft market the show. He often posts in costume, usually backstage, and has his role and the show in his bio. So I think with looking at Stevie's account, it's good to think about if it aligns with your organization's goals on social media, why not empower and support your cast members, in-house, backstage, marketing, dancers, and even directing staff to make content for you. This is something we've seen be successful with various organizations and an approach that we've worked on with many of our clients. So our next organization is the Metropolitan Museum in New York. So they currently have 71.7K followers and 353K likes. We can't all be the Met, of course, but we can take a leaf out of their book.
Welcome to the house of Holbein.
So the Met's content is a good example of how you can create fun and engaging content on TikTok that still feels true to your brand personality. So both of the TikToks that we just watched were made to promote their exhibition of Tudor artworks. And in the first video, we saw a cast of the hit musical Six whilst playing the famous number from the show, The House of Holbein. And, kind of finding that intersection between your organization's niche and other industries, like we see combined there with art, history, comedy, musical theatre, entertainment. It can be a really valuable way to create engaging content and bring in new audiences. The second TikTok actually had 65.1k views alone. And I think it's a really nice example of how you can create more sort of educational or perhaps reserved content that stays within your organization's personality, but it remains engaging, visually exciting, and powerful. So next up, we have my personal favorite, which is Grumpy Kids Studio. They are a small pottery business, and the account is run by the business owner and artist Garbo Zhu. They are a small business started by one person, Garbo, in the pandemic, and they now have 89.5k followers and 2.2 million likes, which is pretty exceptional. So let's have a look at some of their videos.
2022 recap Small Business Owner / Potter Edition Part 1. January, my biggest commission to make 100 comics while still working on my full-time job in construction. Rewarding and exhausting. Celebrated the 1-year birthday of my small business, the Lunar New Year, year of the Grumpy Tiger mugs. Started to seriously consider to quit my day job to do pottery full-time, and yes, I quit my job. February, started experimenting with different techniques and bought the tool that changed my life forever, the airbrush. Launched the Valentine's Day collection, made more sales, and seriously considered that maybe it's time to move out of my parents' living room. So I started the studio hunting process in Montreal instead of Toronto because rent is a lot cheaper there. March, traveled back to Toronto, cleaned up my studio space to get ready for my first mainstream media presence, BlockTO. Started taking more professional photos with my products, and people loved the results. Brought my mugs to New York, and hopefully you will see one of them in the boutique store near you soon. Still in March, had one of my most successful launches ever, and I'm so thankful for all of you. April, went to my first ever in-person market, and I was so nervous that no one would show up, but most of the stuff got sold out in the first day. Thanks a lot for coming. Drove 4 hours east of Montreal to pick up one of the biggest investment pieces ever, the gigantic kiln. Back to Toronto, got my mugs in a local boutique so now you can shop in person. Launch a collaboration candle with Milk Jar, wrapping things up in my parents' living room, so I'm ready for the big move to the new studio space. Whew, stay tuned for part 2. The moment that all of you have been waiting for. Now let's see how I color this gigantic bowl for my husband who eats out of a pot. I know this is supposed to be a Christmas present, but things got out of hand, so I guess it's a Lunar New Year present now. In terms of color, I consulted him and he's like, green is my favorite color. So that's what I did. I used different shades of green and applied them with the airbrush to give a little bit of a dreamy effect. And then I used yellow as the accent color to bring out the lightness in green. And of course, we have to write his name at the bottom of the bowl to show our love.
Much later.
Opening the kiln because it's finally cool enough, and oh my gosh, it's so pretty. Okay, let me walk closer. The different shades of green with yellow blends in beautifully, and I love how it hits the sun. It almost looks like jade. Here's the sizing comparison with the old bowl and the new one, and I hope that he will like it. Come back next time to see his reaction, and let me know if you think it's actually big enough for his meals.
So I think what makes this content so successful is the in-depth insight into all the behind the scenes work in the studio that is shown, both the day-to-day ceramic making processes, as well as the growth of the business. So sharing all of those small and big milestones. Letting viewers in on content like this allows them to connect and become more emotionally invested in the content and the brand, and they really root for you. This account also has great audience engagement and is a brilliant example of making content that your audiences want to see. So Garbo frequently makes videos in response to specific audience questions or comments. In the example we just saw, she created a series of her making a bowl for her husband who eats such large meals, he eats them out of a pot. And so often in videos like these, audience comments end up inspiring the colours or the shapes chosen for different items. And it keeps the audience engaged and really invested in following the next part to see the result. So with that, we are moving on to the V&A Museum.
2022 recap, Small Business Owners.
Technical error. They have 79.9k followers and 2.3 million likes. Let's have a look at some of their videos. So their content embraces the platform's sense of humor and, like the Met, finds ways to kind of hop on trends in a brand appropriate way. I think what's really nice is they're able to poke fun at what's often kind of perceived to be sort of very serious art, whilst also sharing educational and insightful content. So wrapping up our case studies, our final example is the Australian Ballet. They currently have 156.5k followers and 4.5 million likes.
How I feel about certain design choices with little to no explanation. Yes. Yes. Absolutely not. For me, this one's 50-50. 100% no. Yes, and I don't care that it's impractical. I hate these. I think I might hate this even more. Yes, of course.
Try not to look at the blade. Look at each other. So it's you can like read each other well. Yeah. So don't look at the blade. Look at each other. And then when you come into you add some pressure to the blade. So it's not like when you're fighting, it's like he can throw me down because there's pressure. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. It's like it's you're holding pressure against the swords, and it's not tap 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 all the time. All right. Thanks.
Australian Ballet keep their content super relevant to the company and their work. While doing this, they also use trends and trending sounds, as we saw, to make their videos resonate with a more TikTok audience. But they also do this alongside evergreen content that ties directly to their program, like the behind the scenes TikTok we just saw of rehearsals for Romeo and Juliet. So now that you guys have heard lots from us, we want to hear from you about who you think is doing well and why. So if you guys want to share any arts organizations or general TikTok accounts that you think are doing a really great job on TikTok, please do in the chat now. We'd love to see some answers. National Theatre, Black Country Living Museum.
Great to see a shout out for the Barbican who are here today. That must be nice.
Black Country Living are a brilliant example of and they were kind of there from the start, weren't they, with really leading the industry. So lots of fans here.
Sorry, Meg. Duolingo are also very chaotic on TikTok, but very effective. National Opera.
Yeah,
Gallery. Yeah, they're a big favorite for us. And yeah, the OG TikTokers. Brilliant. We are loving all of these answers. Feel free, if you think of any more as we go on, just to pop them in the chat. But now we are going to move on to thinking about some strategies. So we've had a look at who's doing it well. So now let's look at incorporating TikTok into your strategy and day-to-day planning. So as we've kind of already made clear, one of the best ways to start thinking about TikTok is to spend more time on it and to gain a better understanding of the platform. So basically what we just did together, we've shared some examples of relevant accounts to get you guys started, but we'd recommend setting aside 30 minutes to look at what your peers are doing on the platform, perhaps select about 5 to 10 accounts and follow them so you can stay up to speed on how they respond to specific trends. It's not a case of copying their every move, but getting inspiration from how similar organizations to yours approach mainstream trends. So in creating a TikTok strategy, this can be as in-depth or as top line as you want it to be, but ultimately your TikTok strategy should identify what are you trying to achieve on the platform, which audiences are you trying to connect with, what values do you want your TikTok to communicate, what can you realistically do with the time and the resources that you have, and how will you measure success? Maybe it will be through views, through engagement, perhaps even through the team enjoyment of creating them. So once you've kind of thought about all of those things, in terms of incorporating it into your day-to-day, in order for your organization's TikTok to work, you need to commit time and attention to it on a regular basis. So we suggest aiming to commit a certain number of hours per week to the platform. For instance, if you're able to commit 4 hours per week, this might look like 1 hour for strategy work and platform research, perhaps spread throughout the week. 1 hour for community management, so that's interacting with influencers and peers, responding to comments and messages. 30 minutes for content planning, which we would suggest happens at the same time every week to make it a nice regular slot. A good way to start planning content is to come to the session with some ideas or examples of TikToks you'd like to create. If you're part of a team, perhaps each person could come with 2 ideas in their head and you can plan from there. If you're doing it solo, sit down and maybe think about 5 to 6 ideas and then figure out which ones are achievable and relevant to you. Then your final hour and a half can be used for content creation and capture. Generally speaking, most of the time, all you'll need is a smartphone, at a push, some lighting, and if there's any props very specific to a TikTok trend. We would advise you come to the content creation session prepared so that you can just focus on having fun and injecting that energy into all of the videos that you create. So with that, we wanted to share some of the lessons that we've learned at HTK. So first is getting the whole team involved. TikTok isn't an undertaking just for the marketing team. It works best when the entire organization gets involved. And this is for a couple of reasons. It allows a more accurate representation of the full organization. You know, it shows all the personalities of the team, which creates a much more human feel. It also means that the channel isn't reliant on just 1 to 2 people. Once you get started, everyone who's on TikTok can let you know if they have any video ideas and can input into the kind of creative vision of the channel. Logistically, we'd suggest coming up with some TikTok ideas and planning content first, and then approaching a variety of team members to feature in them. All they have to do is show up and you can direct them and film them. And later on, to get buy-in, you know, from the whole team, we'd suggest running a session to explain, you know, why TikTok is now important for your organization. And to make the meeting fun, why not create a TikTok in the session so that they can understand the process and not feel so intimidated by it? As I'm aware, a lot of TikTok can feel intimidating to a lot of people. So our second main learning is the value of peer collaborations. So while a lot of organizations within our sector are new to TikTok, others have already started to build an engaged audience. Peer collaboration can be incredibly valuable because you get to cross-pollinate each other's audiences. It's worth considering if there are any organizations in your sphere that you can reach out to and perhaps make a TikTok together, either in person or as a trending sort of duet. We really advise that you create, or you try to create creative, supportive relationships, whether that's online, through email, on the phone, or in person, where you can compare your learnings and give each other ideas and collaborate on TikToks. For instance, we have 2 clients in the dance space who are currently working on a collaboration video where each company is going to try out each other's style or technique. We also saw it in the example earlier from the Met, where they had the cast of 6 involved. I think there are lots of ways to cross over, and they don't necessarily have to be, you know, as high profile as that. It could just be, you know, 2 small businesses coming together to make a fun video. It can be as simple as that. And we've created a live Google Sheet to facilitate some peer collaboration today between all the organizations that are here. So we'll share the link in the chat at the end of today's session. The idea for this is that you leave your name, organization, and email address, and people here today can reach out to you if they'd like to discuss TikTok, or whether it's just to compare notes, maybe share frustrations, learnings, or to create content together. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to fill that out if you're interested. We won't do anything with this information. It's just for your use today and to come back to when you're looking for some support or advice from your peers. So I'll hand over to Phoebe.
Great, thank you, Ali. So yes, as Ali said, we'll share that at the end of the session. But for now, we are going to, in a moment, move on to the discussion. But first, we would love if you could just take 2 minutes to fill out a quick survey on today's session, which Meg has already shared the link for in the chat. Thank you, Meg. These surveys are very quick to complete, and it just helps us to understand the impact of the webinars that we provide, and also plan topics for future. So we really appreciate the feedback that you share with us. So we'll just pause for a couple of minutes while you do that, and then we will kick off the discussion. Hi, Lydia. We haven't sent the Google Sheet just yet. We're going to send that after the discussion. So yeah, that'll be in the chat, don't worry. We'll just hold on for 20 more seconds and then we'll kick off. Yes, Katie, thank you for asking. 1 is not confident, 10 is very confident. Great. Okay, so if anybody's just finishing that off, don't worry, you can catch up with us in a moment, but for now we are going to kick off our discussion for today, and for that I'm going to hand over to Meg.
Thank you so much. Already seeing a question from Melanie, which is brilliant. I think we're going to start our discussion portion today. So thank you so much for all of your attention. We've got some brilliant creative marketers in the Zoom space today. So this is, instead of a Q&A, a bit of a chance for a discussion to bounce ideas off of each other, depending on things that we've learned today or where we're all at in our TikTok journey. Please do feel free to use the chat box. Also, all of the other Zoom features like putting your hand up and unmuting, absolutely feel free. So let's start. We'll come back to these questions. This is brilliant. With how do you incorporate TikTok into your day-to-day, things like what works well, what are your challenges? And we say this because we work with a lot of organizations, and one of the biggest pain points that comes up is limited resources. We don't have lots of time, lots of money, many members of staff to dedicate properly. But there are things you can do to incorporate TikTok into your day-to-day. At HDK, what we've really found has worked is we just set ourselves the challenge of making 1 TikTok per week. So I don't know if you can tell, but the 3 of us are in the office today, and we've actually already hit our quota for this week. We made 1 this morning. So holding ourselves accountable and doing everything that Ali spoke about, going away, doing a bit of research, coming back with ideas can really, really help. I don't know if anyone has anything to comment on this, whether it's pain points or any solutions you found. no problem if not. We've got some brilliant questions coming in the chat. Hi, Emily.
Hello. We started using TikTok not long after I joined Y Dance, just in a maternity cover post. And I found that actually just starting, that was the biggest hurdle. As soon as we started using it, it became one of those things that wasn't as daunting. So as soon as we started, my problem now is time. So it's keeping it up, because it was started quite well. But yeah, I think it's one of those things you just need to bite the bullet and start doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really brilliant point, Emily. I think the more you sit and dwell on something as well, the more anxieties kind of come out of the woodwork and you can get a bit stuck. So sort of jumping in is absolutely a good strategy if you feel that that's possible for your organization. I think in terms of time, absolutely. What we're seeing with TikTok now is that I think already we're kind of getting over the curve of organizations realizing that this is sort of the future for social media marketing in particular. And there was a time when we had this exact same curve of, oh, we don't have enough time, and oh, actually, is it going to be useful with things like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and even websites? So things move really quickly, and it's quite easy to get stuck in that phase before. So jumping right in is a great tip. Thank you, Emily. I saw a hand up at some point. I don't know if anyone wants to.
Yeah, that was me.
Brilliant. Hi, Megan.
I'm not sure if I turn my video on. Okay, hello. So my primary job is not managing the social media for our museum, but I do manage all of our social media accounts. And one of the things I've come into contact with, we have a very small team at the museum, is that as a Gen Z, I've been on social media my entire life at this point, and I'm very much in the audience of the people that TikTok reaches, and that's one of our goals, is to increase our audience base, especially for younger people and for people from different backgrounds. One of the things I've come into kind of as a barrier is that a lot of my colleagues are very much focused on like numbers and figures and data when it comes to targets, but I know from using TikTok that that's not how you can kind of measure success on TikTok as well, because you might have one thing with 5 likes and then something with hundreds of thousands of them, so it doesn't really work as linear as Twitter or Instagram. So do you have any advice on kind of those colleagues who don't use TikTok, how to really try and convince them that it's a platform they need to give a go, and that kind of to have trust in the creative process? I don't know if that makes any sense, but
yeah, absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. I think particularly with big organizations, there's a lot of red tape, and it's not just convincing managers and heads of department, it's also convincing boards of directors and trustees that it's a worthwhile investment. I think what we've done today, which is show areas of success, can be really, really useful, just to show rather than tell. Maybe whittle it down to 2 or 3 similar organizations who are doing really well. My go-to personally when I'm working on campaigns is always to reach out personally to that company and those teams, and to ask them if anyone's happy to give a bit of a testimonial to how they've found the process. It might be that, you know, you end up speaking to someone at, for example, the National Theatre, who says, yeah, you know, we had the same concerns, and now that we're on it and posting lots, we're actually seeing an increase of X amount in ticket sales. And once you've got that nugget of buy-in from someone else, it's much easier to convince other people. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but I think I completely empathize with the issue that you find yourselves in. Obviously, as young people as well, this kind of being on TikTok, it's kind of a prerequisite, and I hate it, but it is. And I think we've got hands up. If you'd like to unmute, Sian, go ahead. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. I just want to sort of back up some of the stuff that has been said. So my museum's on TikTok, and for a while we were doing like ridiculously well. So we're Will Martin Museum on there. But I think I just wanted to say the danger of only having one person running your TikTok is that I had to have an eye operation at one point, so I was knocked out for a few months, and it's been really difficult now to kind of get our engagement back. So we went from having like multiple videos go super viral because we've got like historic machinery working and it's really fun for people to watch, to now really struggling to get people to watch them. So I think, yeah, just backing up to get more people involved, and that's going to be my goal this year, is to desperately try and convince more of my colleagues to see TikTok as a viable platform.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I think Ali's made a real point of emphasizing getting the team on board as well. Practically speaking, at various organizations that we work with, sometimes it's commissioning, for example, at an educational institution, commissioning students to be ambassadors who get paid to create the content, and then you can create a really nice cohort of excited and exciting content creators. At science museums, getting together not just marketing teams, but visitor services to kind of have training as well, so that people on the ground have access to it. There are a number of ways that you can utilize the skills you've already got, but of course that's easier said than done, and does require a bit more thought. But thank you for sharing that, Sian, and I hope your eye's okay. Brilliant. More hands up. Gabriella, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to ask, I did ask in the chat as well, but it's probably easier for me to just say it here. Does anyone, or do you know of any examples on TikTok, good examples on TikTok, of organisations who work with maybe community groups or children, or even maybe vulnerable adults? I suppose just I can see how you can create content if you're like a museum and you've got collections, or perhaps things are more object-based, or you've got a lot of staff members where permission is quite easy to get. But if a lot of your work is outreach, is there a way to communicate that through TikTok in a way that's legal, I guess, and in a way that isn't sort of minimizing the voices of the people you're working with?
It's a brilliant question, Gabriella. Does anyone in the room have any direct experience or a comment on that? I've got a couple of ideas, but it would be great to hear from someone if they've got similar experience or knowledge in that field. I can see some hands up. If that's for this, please do feel free to unmute yourself.
Y-Dance, who I am here representing today, we work in the prison system and with vulnerable children. So we virtually every kind of person that you would need to try and protect more, we have a working relationship with. And so a lot of our projects, obviously we're very, very careful. Many of them we can't share, and we've just started getting a bit more creative. So we've been filming content of feet moving because we dance, so anything that doesn't have faces in it, and still being able to kind of do things. We we drew on hands, and we did some like animations on hands that we could film. And yeah, and just working with the children and young people and seeing what they wanted to do, and working, and then sitting down in our marketing meetings and trying to work out how we could make that work for them. So we were still doing things that were going to interest them. It takes a lot more time, and it's a slower process for us, but we are managing to make stuff still, which is hard, but I'm happy to kind of chat through some things for you if you wanted to swap emails as well.
Thank you for sharing. What museum did you say you were with, or organisation?
I work with Y-Dance. We are Scottish National Youth Dance. So we cover everything. We work in participation through prisons and community groups, and for in sort of deprived areas, bringing dance movement, and then we work in schools, and we work with we run the National Youth Dance Company as well for Scotland. So it's a massive, we cover a huge basis of dance within Scotland, but all our opportunities as well that we run, many of them are open sort of internationally as well. So yeah, a tiny organization, very, very small, doing a hell of a lot of work within bringing dance to people in around Scotland.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Emily and Gabriella as well. There's also a couple more comments in the chat from Wendy and Kelly, who are in similar spaces, which is brilliant. I think we've got some amazing questions in the chat as well. I think we'll just focus on the discussion a bit more. It's really interesting hearing from lots of you. And if we've got time at the end, we'll come back to some of these questions that are outside of the discussion points. So let's move on to the next slide, Phoebe, if that's all right. I know that I think we can use this as a starting point to talk about a lot of things like struggling with the algorithm and trends, making them relevant. A lot of comments coming in about that sort of thing. So what has been your top performing TikTok? If you're not on TikTok, this might be a good opportunity to start, scribbling down some ideas. And why do you think it performed so well? I'll just start with ours. Our top performing TikTok took us 3 minutes to make, was a stupid idea we had one day. We posted it and it went, not massive, but 20,000 views, I think, which was so much higher than we usually do. And we treat HDK's own TikTok kind of as a little passion project on the side. But it was somewhat frustrating that something that we didn't put much thought into did really well, and other things that we take time and really reflect our services and who we are doesn't do so well. So I don't really have an answer for why it performed so well. Just opening it up to everyone here if they've had similar experiences or different ones. A couple of hands up still, so do feel free to unmute.
I'll go.
Great.
I would say, so it's Bex from the Barbican Centre. Hello. Our first video did really well. And again, it didn't take me very long to do. I made it at home. I used the green screen filter and just put my eyes and mouth basically on the building of the Barbican. And we got 181k views on it. I think it just worked well because it's a little bit funny and stupid, and we're taking the mick out of how we were one of the last London organisations to join TikTok. But yeah, I think it's because we used a trending sound and we used a trending filter. So I think that worked quite well. I would say for us, the things that are the best that we're finding on our platform is the ones that are more funny and a bit silly and are just jumping on the trends. We've tried to do a few interviews and like day in the life videos, and we've shared some of our like podcasts, but those, they do okay, but they're not doing quite as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, they just work well. I think that is just what TikTok is. It's about being a little bit silly, but you never know if something's going to go well or not. Like we were doing well at the beginning, but now I feel like we're getting a bit slower and we're not getting as many views. So
yeah, absolutely. I think totally similar with it just being a really silly trend. I think you do have to embrace that side of TikTok, which a lot of organizations are, understandably so, a bit resistant to doing. Lots of great comments coming in similarly. I've also seen that Barbican video. Hannah says she remembers it too, which is funny. Using, things like using trending sounds, Bex is a really good point. There are obviously issues with sound licensing in commercial libraries, which we're still coming up against, but creating an original sound or saving an original sound and using that as a way around it. Making some silly TikToks with our Christmas mice. Love that, Nicola. Do you think it's harder to get views now that TikTok has been monetized? I don't know if Phoebe or Ali have any comments on that. Phoebe's nodding. I was going to say yes. What was your?
Well, I would contradict you.
Go for it.
I think one of the great things about TikTok, and also one of the challenging things about TikTok, is that it's kind of is, I suppose, the equity of the platform, in that no matter how many followers you have, no matter how many videos you've posted, if a video starts to gain traction, then there's almost no limit to how far it can go. So I'd hope to see that continue with the monetization. But I think that's one of the main pulls of it as a platform. So that would be a real shame.
I do think we've seen some, TikTok was pretty mad about a year ago with booms in videos and people going viral really easily. And I think from being in this sort of space and hearing a lot of organizations similar anxieties at the moment with our content isn't performing as well as it used to. Why is that? And there are a number of reasons. Platform changes are one of them. I would say monetization, similarly, we've seen that on Facebook and Instagram. If Instagram can tell that you are a shop, for example, it will stop promoting your stuff quite so much until you start putting money into your marketing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing a similar thing happening with TikTok advertising. That's not to say that content isn't going to be really effective for your community. And I think that's what TikTok has that no other platform has had before, is that sense of collective creation and community that exists and can keep expanding. So you might not be seeing videos with hundreds of thousands of views anymore on your account, but you're still reaching relevant audiences and being creative.
Yeah, just to add to that, I've just seen a message from Sean saying our best performing video was waking up the water wheel, and it took about 30 minutes to record various clips of the process of turning our 120-year-old water wheel, which gained 2.6 million likes and 5 million views.
15 million views.
15, sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry. 15 million. And I think that's a really great example. So thanks for sharing that. That also, I think there's this idea sometimes with TikTok or with Instagram as well, that everyone kind of has to follow the same thing and do sort of mainstream things and trends, when actually the really nice thing about TikTok is there's room for every niche. So there will be people who absolutely love to see a water wheel, a 120-year-old water wheel. There's organ talk as well. So like, I think it's the Royal Albert Hall do really great videos, their organ playing. So it's a really nice space where every single niche, every single interest can be appreciated. Sorry, that was all from me.
No, that's great. Just a quick comment on hashtags. Yes, it's similar. We would recommend using 3 to 5 hashtags and no more than 10, and then dividing it into 3 specific. If you're going to use, let's say you use 5 hashtags, do maybe 3 specific ones. So hashtag contemporary dance, hashtag dancer talk, hashtag ballet UK tour, and then a couple of more general ones. Maybe it's wider industry based or location based, or indeed hashtag FYP for you page, although we're not convinced that works anymore. 3 to 5 hashtags, no more than 10. Great, that's exactly what I said. Snap. Brilliant. So that sort of brings us to the end of we've got another prompt. I'm aware that we've got a few minutes left. Shall we have any last minute thoughts and questions? We will, Ali, Phoebe and I will go through the chat, which we'll have access to, and think about how best to circulate all of the thoughts today with some answers. But while we're all here in the flesh digitally, let's have a bit more of a discussion. I can see a hand up from Bex. Go ahead, Bex.
Yeah, mine was just to ask if other organizations have had this too. So obviously we're asked to get TikTok, we've made TikTok, but TikTok takes a lot of work to do and make that content. But we've also got our other social channels like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And obviously at the Twitter at the moment, there's all the issues with Elon Musk, and we're kind of debating where we sit with Twitter and if we want to still use it, and trying to kind of get to this idea that doing less is better and just focusing on a few. I don't know, if I was just wondering if anyone else is already doing that or having discussions about it, kind of replacing TikTok for getting rid of Twitter, replacing it with TikTok basically.
Great, thanks Bex. Gabriella, do you want to comment on that at all or anything else, and we can have a bit of discussion?
I was just going to give an input, as in we're a bit different. We're an arts organisation. We work locally, regionally, nationally and internationally. But I think for Twitter Twitter is still really useful for us because a lot of our local stakeholders, people that work in Parliament or people that work on the council or just other organisations, they still all interact with us on Twitter, and a lot of our content that's revolved around local activity or even regional activity still performs really well on Twitter. So I suppose it just depends on your organisation. I mean, Barbican's really visual and has such a huge reach. I would imagine TikTok's probably beneficial. Yeah, rather than Twitter, but I don't know. It's still useful for us at the moment, even though Elon Musk is a nutter.
Great, thank you, Gabriella. That's really useful. Robert, I can see your hand up.
So yes, I would, excuse me, really emphasise what Gabriella's just said. You know, because we're the Museum of Timekeeping, and a lot of our audiences are older, shall we say, and myself and the museum manager have debated whether to remove ourselves from TikTok because of everything that's going on with Elon Musk and stuff. At the moment, we're still finding that our audiences either use Twitter or Instagram. They tend not to use both. So we're still in that sort of debating stage: is do we pull Twitter and focus on TikTok or not? So yeah, we're in a very similar stage in that way. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Robert. I think we had a really interesting talk to shout out the Old Vic, I think it was, Ali, correct me if I'm wrong, at the AMA Digital Marketing Day about ditching Twitter for TikTok and refocusing your energy. I think there's certainly arguments for both, and ultimately with trying to connect with audiences, it's going to be about exactly what Robert was saying, who lives where, on which platform. There's no point ditching Twitter for TikTok if your audience doesn't exist there and probably won't exist in the same way. But just, yeah, staying aware of the changes in Twitter and the likelihood that it might change. Yes, Julia, I will share the Google Doc now. I think that might be a good opportunity to bring the conversation to close. Thank you so much for all of your insights today. It was really, really useful. I will just copy this in right now, Julia, and then you can dash. But for now, I will pass back. Oh, so I'm trying to multitask. It's not going well. I'll pass back over to Phoebe.
Thank you, Meg. Very well multitasked. And yeah, so Meg has now just dropped the link into that Google Sheet. So I think what today has shown us is that everybody is keen to talk about TikTok. Everybody has experiences to share. So if you would like to carry on the conversation between yourselves, please leave your details in the Google Sheet. And just to reiterate, we're not using that for any of our own purposes. It's purely just for you to go back to and see if there's any similar organizations to your own to have conversations with and collaborate with. So just to wrap up, if you have enjoyed today's webinar, make sure to check out our webinars for the rest of the year, which are all live on the HDK website. Meg has shared the link to that in the chat as well. So next month, we are sharing a guide to your perfect website for arts, culture, and heritage organizations. So that's for anyone thinking about improving or redesigning your website. In March, we'll be looking at the metaverse and how your peers are starting to use the technology. And in April, accessible social media. So what can we all be doing better? We've got all of the webinars for the year up on the website already, so please feel free to take a look and register for any that are of interest. And finally, if you'd like to receive HDK's quarterly newsletter for marketing tips and insights, industry case studies, and updates from the team, please sign up via the link in the chat now. I wonder whether it's worth resharing that in the chat, Meg. Thank you very much. And we will leave this open for a minute or two, just so that everybody has a chance to grab those. If you weren't able to do the survey yet, please do so. We really appreciate your input. And if you have anything to say about today's session on social media, please use the hashtag HDK webinar, and we will make sure to have a read and get back to you. But yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for your discussion today. We're going to sign off for now, but we will leave this up for another moment.